Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're going to get started in a few minutes on this presentation. But if this is the first webinar you've joined, welcome to our Career Guidance webinar series. We've gone through a few different topics already, but this is a Career Guidance series of 10 different webinars where we'll cover things like building your LinkedIn profile and leveraging your online presence, to interview skills, to US workplace culture. So while we wait for everyone to log in, we just like to start these webinars by a quick introduction. We want to learn a little bit more about you. So if you can, please use the chat feature and tell us where in the world you're calling in from, where in the United States you'd like to do your internship, what field you'd like to do your internship. So while people respond to that, we'll do introductions on our end. My name is Tammy Nicholson. I'm the program manager for the Career Training USA program at Interexchange. I'm joined by my colleague Fatima Rodriguez, who will be delivering this presentation today. But Fatima, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, as Tammin mentioned, my name is Fatima Rodriguez. I am the Communications and Recruitment Coordinator here at Interexchange, and I'm really excited to present this webinar for you all about how to build your online presence and leverage your LinkedIn profile.
And we have a few people that have chimed in already on the chat box. A lot of people from Europe, it looks like today. Valentina in Italy, she wants to do her internship in either New York or Los Angeles. We're also joined by Lena from the UK. She wants to do an internship in New York as well in business. Darren is a finance major. He is from Ireland and plans to be in Boston this summer for a finance internship. We also have Manel, who wants to do a culinary traineeship in Florida, and he's from Morocco. So keep telling us where you're from. Keep using that chat feature. We might not read everyone out loud, but it's always nice for Fatima and I to know who our audience is and where in the world you're joining us from. Before we do get started, I want to just mention a few of the logistics of this presentation. Everyone is muted, so if you do have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we'll read off the questions as they come in. We have a few pauses where we'll stop and answer any questions about any parts of the presentation. And then just a little bit more about Interexchange for those of you who are unfamiliar with us as an organization. We are a nonprofit based in New York City, and our mission is to create cultural exchange through different programs. So the Career Training USA program specifically works with interns and trainees who are outside the United States to help offer them visa sponsorship for training and internship programs in the United States. We're based in New York City, but we sponsor interns and trainees all over the United States. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Fatima and let her get started with this presentation.
Awesome, thank you so much, Tammin. So we're first going to start with the outline of the session, just to let you know what we're going to be discussing about. First things first, we're going to the first section of the webinar. We're going to talk about how to build your online presence. So we'll go through how to create an online presence through different online platforms, how to establish your personal brand, how to monitor your online activities so that you maintain a positive online presence as well. And then from there, we'll talk about how to leverage your LinkedIn profile. We'll go over a little bit about how, talk about what exactly is LinkedIn if you're not familiar, how to maximize your first impression using your profile, how to be an active member and grow your online network. And then from there, talk about how you can apply for internship openings using your LinkedIn profile. So first, as we mentioned, we'll go into how to create an online presence. So chances are you may have already created accounts on social media websites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, perhaps Google+, and especially LinkedIn. And if you haven't, the first and easiest step to creating an online presence is to establish accounts on these social networking websites that would showcase your previous experiences and your skills. So this is really important because employers use social media to search for and recruit talented interns and trainees. So what they'll do is they'll typically check your profiles as a way to judge your character and also vet your credibility. So no matter how many social media networks or social media accounts that you may already have, or how much experience you have posting on these profiles, you lose a lot of these opportunities if the content that you post online is inappropriate. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to monitor your online activity a little bit more. So an effective social media presence is built through meaningful and deliberate posts. So what I mean by this is that you want to use your social media platform to produce and reshare content or posts that you find to be either insightful, introspective, and also compelling to your intended audience. Another great way to showcase your work or projects that you've completed, perhaps like during your university, is by creating an online portfolio or writing a blog. So this is really helpful for employers to see your skills and provide supplemental support to your resume, especially in areas or industries such as architecture, design, film, journalism, research, and amongst other fields. And there are so many fields that you can display your work by having an online portfolio or creating a blog. So creating an online presence and building your online presence will really allow you to document and exhibit your work that is ultimately presented in your resume or CV. So the next time someone asks you for a sample of work, you'll be able to share a link to your online portfolio with them by including that particular link on your CV, resume, or other social media platforms. So while you can see there are so many different types of online presence, so the social networking platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, and then these online portfolios such as Weebly, Wix.com, Behance.net, Dribble.com, amongst other websites. If you have any other websites that you like to use, feel free to type that into the chat box. And also blogging platforms such as WordPress, Tumblr, and Blogger. And creating these online portfolios can be really simple. And again, there are many free websites such as those that are listed on these screens. So you want to design your site or your blog with a theme based on your personal brand, a title, and any other creative content that you want to use. So don't forget to include an About Me section, especially on your portfolio that would detail your interests and your goals. Also, remember to include a contact me section with your name, email address, and other professional social media accounts. So that way people can always like refer to your other social media accounts. And feel free to use samples from your class projects or previous work projects in your online portfolio. This is essentially your body of work, so it's definitely something you want to include in your portfolio. Additionally, definitely take advantage of the audio and visual representation of your research and experience, perhaps like photos of you at work, in your lab, or videos that you've created as part of your film studies. This really allows others to learn more easily about you and find your work. And lastly, websites or I do want to mention that websites or blogs that you create don't necessarily always have to be related to your career focus. You can write a blog about your life experiences or write about other interests outside of your industry field. So for those who are in the field of writing or journalism, this can be another way to showcase your writing for those who would like to go into social media or marketing. This is another great way to display your knowledge of use of online platforms. So for example, like I love houseplants, so I personally even made my own like houseplant Instagram account, and just kind of shows different ways that your knowledge about plants and the way you write your captions or share even photos and build kind of content for your Instagram or for my plant account. So that's just something I like to do on the side. But besides the point, now we're going to talk more about how to establish your brand, because I know I mentioned that in the previous slide about, that you want to create your online platforms to reflect your personal brand. So social media is all about storytelling. So it's important that you establish your own personal brand that is consistent throughout all your online platforms. So before you begin working on your social media profiles, you'll want to create a statement that is unique to your brand. And each social media platform will include an area to describe yourself. So you'll want to use that section to highlight your qualifications for a position that you're interested in. So for example, your bio on Twitter could read architecture student at um, London College of Communication. Oh, well, you're not going to be an architecture student there, but in perhaps like NYU, that's a US university, or perhaps you're interested in criminal justice, or other sites like LinkedIn would also include sections of your profile specifically for your past employments, and another section to display your brand statement and your education. And essentially, by having a brand statement on LinkedIn, this will really increase your visibility and credibility to employers. And again, later in this presentation, we'll take more of a deep dive about how to leverage your LinkedIn profile during an internship search and really utilize all those features on your profile. Now, I mentioned creating the brand statement, right? So you want to, there's different ways, really, or different tips and ideas of how to create your personal brand statement. But I personally think that, the golden rule for really creating a brand statement that is unique to you is to always be authentic. Remember that you're telling your story, so you want to really capture who you are and what you're about. And then in addition to this, in addition to what you want to convey in your personal brand statement, you want to start thinking about and brainstorming the skills that you bring to the table. So first and foremost, think about your education and the scope of your experience. That's where you'll want to highlight the education or any training that you received, your years of experience, and the scope of your experience. Then secondly, you'll want to discuss your branding promise. This is where you'll want to express your combination of skills, your experience, and your personality, especially because people want to know who you are. And then try and think about what matters to you and what is it that you're really passionate about and what can you offer that other people or your peers cannot offer. And then finally, you'll want to highlight your unique strengths. Think about what are your strengths or your natural approach to work is, or perhaps your interests. Focus on the things that you excel on every day. Think about the skills that build your resume as a student and a young professional. And lastly, your personal brand should reflect your target job. It is essentially, a statement of value that promises how your personal attributes separates you from your peers. So I do want to ask a question, but before I ask this question, I just want to quickly play this video about personal branding.
If someone brings up your name, what do you want them to say about you? We often think of branding as something done in the business world, but it turns out even students have a personal brand. College offers a unique opportunity to identify our strengths before entering the professional world and discover how we want to be remembered. Tip number 1, ask yourself how you want to be remembered. The best place to start when building a personal brand is asking yourself, how do I want to be remembered? By family or friends? By my peers when I graduate from college? By a future employer at the end of an interview? These are some starting questions to ask yourself when identifying your personal brand. What makes you you? If
So the question was, how do you want to be remembered? What makes you you? So I do want to ask that question to the audience. What do you think makes you you? Do you have a personal brand? And if so, what is your personal brand? So just quickly type it into the chat box if you think that you have a unique personal brand or you have an inkling of the kind of brand that you want to present yourself as.
And we have a couple responses that are coming in the chat box. We have Nicole, who wrote that her personal brand is hardworking. Valentina said that she is organized and she's also passionate about her field.
Awesome.
We have Felipe, who just wrote that he is a team player. And
That's
then
great.
Anastasia says that she has Instagram skills. So her personal brand is her Instagram, I guess, which ties nicely into the what you're talking about in the last couple slides.
Oh, awesome. So speaking of Instagram, I actually wanted to show you two examples of what I find to be like really good personal branding and how we can shape your, the brands or skills that you mentioned previously and to like expand upon that in your About Me section. So the next slide, you'll see Kira. She finds herself to be, she's a digital creator. So that's how she perceives herself as and how she markets herself. That's who she is like. And her brand across, Instagram and Twitter is someone who talks about wellness, travel, and fitness. So she's a lover of the world and far off places. She's really describing herself. So you really want to take those skills and translate that specifically more into like your interests and what you're about. And for example, here she says, empowering you to be your best self, wellness via travel and fitness, travel hacks. So she's a creator. These are all things that exemplify who you are and really makes herself stand out from the rest of her peers. It's really about, so we can like take, that's a great starting point for all your brands. So now we're going to try and expand that further by using those three tips about how to unlock your brand. Brainstorm the skills that you bring to the table, and then really try and think about, who you are and make that more personable. So the next slide, I know I mentioned this earlier. Again, we want to talk about how to monitor your online activity because this is super important. So once you have a solid online presence, maintaining that positive online reputation is going to be the key for you to land those internships. So to create an effective and engaging social media presence, remember to think before you post. So people, especially potential employers, care about what you post. So what you say online, even if it's personal, has the potential to impact you professionally. So you should never use your online platform, as a diary, especially if it's something negative, inappropriate, or hurtful to others. Many people may post something impulsively or spontaneously that may or may not have a negative impact on the way they can be perceived. So before you post, think about, would this raise any red flags? And putting this kind of technique into place will give you an idea of what kind of things you should share with others and what should be kept private. Additionally, if you have your own website or Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn profiles, you should also take extra care to make sure it is perfectly polished and should also really showcase good grammar. So perhaps maybe you want to ask a friend or even a university advisor to look over your websites or social media profiles for a second option. So if you use consistently bad grammar online, some employers may think that you are careless or perhaps inattentive to detail. So you want to show that you are detail oriented even through your social network, social online, sorry, social accounts. And one of the best things you can do for your professional image is to scrub your profiles and stay on top of the ever-changing privacy settings because this is constantly changing. So in general, you want to delete or untag anything that might be seen as unprofessional, and that could include pictures, posts, tweets, and that sometimes it might take asking a friend to take down a picture of you. Also, you want to be careful on who you follow and who you're friends with. This can also be a reflection on you and your interests, and sometimes that might not align with what employers are looking for. So spend sufficient time on each site learning how to best protect yourself from people outside of your immediate circle because sites are always changing, and you really do want to stay on top of that. So one way, or like one great tool that I like to use specifically for Facebook is to look at the view as button. And that will really, that tool allows you to see what the public sees, which can give you an idea of what privacy settings you have set or may need to change. And you can also, if it's not Facebook, you can also use the incognito window to search for your name on Google to see what pops up and how your profile is viewed by others. And then lastly, remember to keep your profile up to date. Make the time every few months to add or remove certain things from your online profiles, not and this not only prevents misleading information from being circulated, but it also allows potential employees to learn about the person you are today. So they're not looking at old information. So, perhaps just imagine you haven't updated any of your online profiles for the past few years, and then perhaps like a recruiter, an internship recruiter for a big company views your profile, but then concludes perhaps you don't have enough of the qualifications needed for the job. But in reality, you do, and you have a lot of the skills and a lot of the experiences, and that's potentially a way that you might lose out on an opportunity. So in short, you not updating your online profile could probably cost you once in a lifetime opportunities. So it's important to really stay on top of those all. Now, before I move forward into the next half of the presentation, I just want to pause here for any questions about what we just discussed.
Whoops. Yeah, so we do have a few questions that have come up so far. The first is, are there certain online portfolio sites that are better than others for certain professions?
So that's actually a great question. I know there's so many different options out there online right now, but I would definitely say that all the websites that we posted in the slide earlier are great options to use professionally to showcase your online portfolio. However, I would definitely, take a look at each of those platforms to see what features would best work for you and how you want to showcase your portfolio to potential employers in your industry. I would definitely say it really depends on what kind of design you're trying to display and how you want to display it and convey your work.
Awesome. Another question is about going back to what you had said before about privacy settings. So someone asked how do they balance their online presence that they want to build with keeping everything private?
That's a great question, and I know that it can be tricky sometimes, but essentially, like your online presence is a reflection of you, and you are free to post whatever you want. But I would definitely suggest just to be more conscious of your profile. Maybe perhaps you can put some profiles private on others, and then private on some, and then public on others, so that way you can keep some privacy of like your real life, or not real life, everything's your real life, but more of your private life private, and then some of your things that you want more public to be public in terms of like perhaps your professional life. And then lastly, you can probably create two accounts. So maybe one account is private, and then another account on your social media website can also be more focused on your interests, like my plant Instagram. Like that's public.
That's a very good example. It looks like this looks like the last question that we have for now, but how do video platforms differ than traditional social media platforms?
That's a great, great questions. But I would definitely say that online video platforms are definitely similar to traditional social media platforms in that one, you can create a profile where you can share your content, and your especially like YouTube and Vimeo, I would definitely say those are great tools to use in order to showcase what you've created with potential employers. As you know, like YouTube is a huge video social platform where many people create YouTube channels, and they put a lot of content out regarding their interests and a wide variety of different topics. So I would definitely say it's definitely super similar. So if you want to create a video online platform, take the time again to have that reflect your personal brand. You want your channel to reflect you and your interests, and really convey the topics that you are covering.
Excellent. I think those are all the questions that we have for right now.
Awesome. Okay, great. So now we're going to just dive into LinkedIn. So the first question is, or to you all, is what is LinkedIn? So I'm sure that most of you know what LinkedIn is, but for those of you who are not familiar with LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network online. So they have about like 675 million monthly users and then 20 million companies listed. So there's so many companies that are on LinkedIn using and recruiting interns and young professionals. It is the top social media tool used by recruiters to find candidates, and about 90% of those recruiters regularly use LinkedIn. It is definitely a platform that is used to build your brand and your network. So if if you don't, especially now with COVID, you don't have that access to really go to conferences or to career fairs, LinkedIn is a great way to virtually connect and network with other host employers and perhaps peers and colleagues. And lastly, it is a tool used to gain information about jobs, companies, and industry professionals. It's really a great resource to keep up to date with different things that is currently happening in your field. So, you can always read books and news articles, but LinkedIn, I would definitely say, does a really good job of creating a platform that will allow you to stay ahead of new and exciting things that's going on in your field. So because everything is currently current and up to date. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, I would highly suggest, to create a LinkedIn profile. And I want to just kind of put it out there and ask, do you have a LinkedIn profile? And if so, like how often do you update your LinkedIn profile?
I'll answer while people are typing. I have a LinkedIn profile, and I update it probably maybe every 3 months or so.
That's
And
awesome.
we are getting, oh, sorry, we're getting
Oh no,
a
that's
few
awesome.
responses now as people say that they also have LinkedIn. It looks like Artem updates his weekly,
Oh
that's
wow.
very impressive. Hussein says at the end of every semester, which is probably a good idea. Um, we have Valentina. She also updates hers about every quarter. Patience says when she changes jobs. Looks like a lot of people are saying around every few weeks or every few months.
That's really good that's great news to hear because it's really important to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date as you would a resume. And the reason why for that, if we go into the next slide and just look at the statistics about LinkedIn, is that it is the #1 source of quality hires for host companies. So host companies will go on your LinkedIn profile to see what you're currently up to. And it's really the reason why this is important because when employers go on your profile, they will get a really quick snapshot of you. So not only is your resume posted, but your LinkedIn profile also shows the opportunities for engagement and how involved you are in your field. So they can see your resume, what organization or groups you belong to, who you're connected with in your field, and if anyone has recommended or endorsed you. So these are things that will make you stand out in your field, and we'll talk more about what that looks like on your profile. So that's why it's really important to have your LinkedIn profile up to date and current. As I mentioned, you might potentially lose out on opportunities if you don't keep this up to date. So we'll go into how to maximize your first impression on LinkedIn. So now that you have established your personal brand, there are some key profile updates to keep in mind in order to maximize your first impression. So because completed profiles, they actually rank higher in Google searches. So this gives you an opportunity to really control what employers see when they search for you and create a narrative that shows what you can offer them. So don't forget to set your profile to public, excuse me, and then customize your profile URL so that you can easily convey to people what your LinkedIn profile is, and also even fit that on your resume. So for example, it'll be like linkedin.com/jsmith123. Maybe you put your first initial, last name, and then that way people can easily search your LinkedIn profile. And then second, you'll want to connect. You'll want to upload a professional looking photo. This is essentially how people are first introduced to you and really governs their first impressions from the start. So remember to choose an image that is recent and takes up 60% of the circle. So be mindful to use a photo that is warm and inviting, and don't forget to smile, so because this is the first time they see you and they want to put a face to the name, and you want to be warm and inviting. So after you've uploaded a profile photo, it would be best to add a background photo that indicates your education focus or professional field, or maybe any other interest that you may have that, again, that is professional. We want to keep this as professional as possible, but also convey who you are. And this is a great way to grab people's attention and create some context around who you are. So if you'd like, you can create a custom banner on a website, such as Canva, and you can do this for free. So, who wouldn't want to make a memorable profile? So I would definitely suggest going on Canva and playing around with certain options to make that banner a little bit more inviting. And then, so once you have updated both photos, think of what you would like your headline to be. You'll want something that distinguishes yourself, and this is usually the best place to put your personal brand statement. You can edit the headlines to be, I would definitely suggest to edit the headlines to be more than just your educational experience or your job position. And you can add other projects you're working on or even scholarships that you've obtained in this section. And then the next section is the summary section. This is your chance to tell your story and get into more detail about your experiences. So don't use this section just to list your skills and experience. You want to start, with a strong opener to get your audience to keep reading. And this is just another way to talk about your personal brand and dive a little bit further into your goals and really express those goals and accomplishment that reflects your skills and passion. And then don't forget to update your contact info so recruiters can reach out to you. So I'm going to just show you quickly what that looks like on the profile for an example. Right here in the next slide, you can see she has added her background photo. You can quickly tell that she's perhaps into like IT or data analytics. And then she added a profile photo where she's clearly smiling and she's being inviting, obviously. And here you can also see that she's created a headline. So driven analyst, mathematics, statistic, data analyst, quantitative modeling. So here, she really just shows you her interest, and then she created a summary talking about, who she is a little bit more, again, a little bit more about her interests, and then listed out her accomplishments. So from when you first jump on her profile, you get a really understanding of what she's done, who she is, and her interests, and she looks like a nice person you'd want to perhaps interview. And then I just want to quickly highlight the ranking. So those rankings in LinkedIn. So the more that you grow your networks and the more completed profile you have a higher ranking. So that way you can actually appear on more searches and people know that you're an active user on LinkedIn. And then lastly, you see the contact information. Once you update your contact information, you can host employer can quickly click on this contact info and even send you an email. So it's really important that you update your contact info. So if you were being reached out to potential recruiters for internships, that this is something that you can potentially explore. So second portion of how to maximize your first impression, again, is to add relevant work experience. So the experience section of your profile is a place to share what you've done and how well you've done it. you'll want to highlight the responsibilities that align with your headline and summary. So list the most recent experiences first, even if it's part-time. And then again, share what you've done, how well you've done it, and then include photos, videos, blog posts, any of your online portfolios or any PDFs or any other medias that you can link onto your LinkedIn. LinkedIn does give you that option to include those different media formats, and it really helps, elevate your profile to showcase what you've worked on, whether that's, photos, blog posts, again, as I mentioned. And I would definitely say if you don't have too much work experience, don't feel too discouraged, because you can add additional experience to your profile, such as volunteer experience, your education, projects or courses, and then your awards or any honors that you received while you were in undergrad or even your master's. So, remember your profile is about showcasing you and your accomplishments and then tying that back into your summary and headline. So we'll quickly go over what that looks like on the profile. Here you can see that Angelina, she added her work experience that she felt that was related to her field of interest. So again, she was a desk technician, cybersecurity intern, and then for an intern for qualitative analytics and statistics. So it goes back to the data analyst, mathematics, and then she went on to discuss, her responsibilities and her role. So this is like really shows you another comprehensive profile and what she's done in the past. Okay, and then lastly, the part 3 of maximizing your first impression is to list and manage your skills and endorsements. So I would definitely suggest to add at least 10 skills that would best reflect that the skills that you are known for. And then if you have any skills that are listed on your profile that don't relate to you and what you do, I would definitely suggest deleting those because it gives more of a false representation of you. And in general, you don't want to put any false information of your profile. Just because, we want to give the most honest representation of who you are and what you can offer to the host company or a position. And then another way you can maximize leverage your profile is by asking for or requesting recommendations from your previous managers or perhaps even professors, classmates you've worked with closely. These are all different ways that they can write something about you, and then those who are looking on your profile can learn, oh, Angelina's a great person to work with and she's worked on so and so, and it just gives more of a credibility to the strengths and skills that you've already listed. So again, the next slide will just quickly show you. Here is just another the skills and endorsement section where you see like public speaking. Her top 3 skills are listed, and that's public speaking, event management, and Spanish. So she had endorsements from 37 people about public speaking. 34 people say she's great at event management, and 23 people said she's has perfect Spanish skills basically. And that's how you have a better understanding that she is really well versed in these skills. And then if you can, here you can click on show more, but then from there they'll show you additional skills that she finds to be relates to her. And then in the second half of this screenshot, you'll see the recommendations. And this is where you can ask for a recommendation, or you can or people can go on your profile and even recommend you, and they'll just like quickly, you'll see the recommendations from, her previous employers, and they just speak about what it's like to work with this particular candidate. So again, like once you go on this profile, you can see like, oh, she's a great candidate for this position. And these are different ways that you want to leverage your LinkedIn profile so that you can be more of an attractive candidate. And here, before I move forward further, I do want to pause for questions if you have any other questions regarding what I just went over. I know we've been going over a lot of different information. So Tamara, are there any questions that came in? Oh, I think you're muted.
And I'm doing terrible as a technician of this webinar today. Thank you. There are two questions that have come in. The first is, how long should the summary section in LinkedIn be?
That's a great question, because I know that a lot of people can either write something super short and go on and on and on. But I would definitely say there's no real right or wrong answer on how long your LinkedIn summary should be. The summary section, really allows you to compose about, I would say, 300 to 350 words. But it's important to remember that you don't want your LinkedIn summary to be dragging. I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to have dragging content to your reader or have any rambling paragraph with no clear point. So before you begin your summary, definitely I would suggest creating an outline of things that you want to say and the order of it. I would suggest, starting off with a hook, a strong opener that would really hook your reader into continue reading your summary. Maybe some questions to think about to hook a reader that you want to ask yourself, maybe what sets you apart from everyone else, maybe what combination of skills help you achieve those results, and why do you love your work? These are some questions that you could ask to create that strong opener. And then secondly, state your mission, talk about what you do and then what's important to you and why, and then list out your experiences, call out your skills and specialties. And then from there, just provide proof of your experiences, highlight any interests, and then provide contact information. It's quite similar to maybe like a cover letter, but really condensed in a more like a very strong, again, strong hook. You want to like keep your reader engaged.
Great. The other question is about skills. Is it okay to list a skill on your LinkedIn profile if you don't have any endorsements for that skill?
That is really a great question again. It's actually definitely okay to list a skill, even if it isn't endorsed initially, especially if it does relate to your experience or your professional interests, and is in fact actually a skill that you really do possess. Eventually, once you start receiving endorsement from others, people who have worked with you would be able to see that you've actually listed those skills, and then eventually endorse you, as opposed to if it wasn't listed. Maybe it's just something that people didn't think of. But if they see it's there, they can quickly click on your skill and then endorse it. And that would, increase your endorsements further.
That makes sense. It looks like those are the only two that we had about LinkedIn profile creation and maximizing it, but I will certainly read off at the end if any more come in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Damon. So now we're going to go into kind of like the networking portion of LinkedIn and how to really grow your network and be more of an active member. So to be an active member, I would definitely say, share your content, share content to your LinkedIn feed. So by sharing your content on LinkedIn, you start to have more of an active role in your network, since sharing content will add value to your connections. So it shows your interest in keeping up to date with trends and current news in your field of interest. So when you begin to share posts, add some thoughts and comments that you may have about the article you are sharing. This way, you give yourself more prominence when you express why a particular piece or like article matters to you. And this establishes your opinions and even thought leadership. Another way to be an active member within your network is to complete LinkedIn courses. So LinkedIn actually offers some courses called LinkedIn Learning, and they offer about 6,000 courses with industry leading professionals. I believe LinkedIn Learning does offer a free first month trial, so you can use the platform to see if it works for you and see if any courses are of interest, or really take advantage of that first free month and see how you can further develop your professional skills or find other ways to potentially network with industry professionals who are leading those courses as well. So once you've completed a course, you can, like, as I mentioned, connect with the professional who taught it. And then I would definitely say, write a note stating that you watched their course, and then offer, well, perhaps like maybe like one takeaway that you got from it. And who knows, you may be connecting with these professionals will give you access to more free opportunities like courses and events you attended. So these are just some ways to be an active member on LinkedIn. And from there, you can definitely grow your online network. So now that you created your LinkedIn profile and are making a great first impression, and you've learned how to be an active member on LinkedIn, now it's really, really important to grow your online network. And I'm sure this is something that everyone's actually curious about. Where do I start? So make sure you're building a strong and relevant network. I think that's what's really important. And in order to do this, you want to be clear about your professional direction. So set your goals. And this is why it's important to have a personal brand. You want to think about, where you are trying to go directionally in your professional career. So think about why you're using LinkedIn. Like, are you looking for an internship? Are you just starting your undergraduate career and want to get an idea of maybe the companies that are out there or different trends that are currently happening in an industry? Think about, again, like, what does your professional path look like? Or maybe you're just looking for a volunteer opportunity. Like, these are something, again, just to think about. And what I mean by this is, if you're new, the reason why I encourage you to think about this is because if you're new to LinkedIn and you don't fully understand its use, you may start to like a lot of random organizations that have nothing to do with your professional interests. And that's not, it's not bad, but it's also, again, you want to be intentional with your use for LinkedIn and the focus, and you want to, and by being more intentional with the use of LinkedIn, you can focus on the quality of your profile and your network, and just make sure that what you're doing is relevant to your interests professionally and to your brand. So unlike other social media platforms, LinkedIn, you want to have more quality connections over quantity. So it's not about how many connections you have on LinkedIn. So you're actually better off on having good quality connections and than connecting, or liking everything you see on LinkedIn. So think about, if it's not going to get you closer to your professional goal, you might not want to connect with that person. And, again, this isn't to say that not to connect with your peers or colleagues or family and friends. Sometimes your immediate network will help you find opportunities that you may not necessarily have found on your own. So it's even worth, obviously, to connect with past and current coworkers, classmates, professors, friends, or family, and perhaps they might know someone who can connect you with someone else if you feel, that you don't have the options right away on LinkedIn. And then to begin growing your network, I would probably suggest searching for topics, companies, or organizations, maybe, again, classmates or faculty, and send them a personalized connection request. So, and then this way, again, you can start building your network on LinkedIn, and then give you more credibility on your profile, so that if you were to connect with someone who's not in your immediate connection, or someone you don't personally know, you have a strong foundation for your LinkedIn profile. Now, perhaps you want to connect with someone that you don't know, and you admire them as, like, you perhaps want them to be your mentor, you want to connect with them to learn more about the company or their position. This is where it becomes really important to have a really strong, like, one-click profile. So let's say they click on your profile, and again, like, they see that you have filled out all aspects of the profile. of your profile and you really gave thought to it and you're become an active member and you're an engaged member and you really fill out all the work experiences, this would allow people who you don't typically know to accept your requests if you come highly recommended. Also, if you have perhaps engaged with this person before that you don't particularly know, send a note to them that you have engaged with them before, or that you've read their posts, or that you met them in person, or that you saw them speak at a conference or at a webinar. This is just a great way to start a conversation with them and show that you have been following them and been interested in what they have to say and what they've been doing within their professional career. And I would say to not be discouraged if someone doesn't accept your invitation to connect. This doesn't necessarily mean that they don't want to connect with you. It perhaps some people don't respond to messages, or they are just really busy and it's just something that they haven't gotten to. So definitely don't take it personally. Just try to find someone else who is in similar like job position or similar company that you can work for, or maybe perhaps there's another person in that company who shares a similar position with that person and perhaps you can connect with them. So there's many different ways that you can connect with people on LinkedIn, but again, it's really important to have that strong one-click profile. Okay, so the next part to growing your online network is not just by just connecting. I would definitely suggest to follow influencers in your industry, because by following relevant influencers in your industry, this you're able to stay up to date with a range of content that a particular influencer would have shared on your feed. So for example, as you can see here, like interests, like this person's interest is in Bill Gates. So you could probably share an article or news about what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is currently doing. And this in turn will give you the ability to share that information within your network. And then again, adding value among your peers because you're giving them content, and it also gives context to your profile because it does demonstrate your interests, passion in what you do, and who you look up to, as I mentioned previously. And then also follow companies you'd like to work with. Many companies will create a company page on LinkedIn to represent themselves and build their online presence. So by following companies that you're interested in working with, again, you can stay current with the company news and updates, which will show up on your feed, or if you visit their profile. And in addition to this, another reason this is like important, because you can actually also see who works there, and you can see if there's any other positions that are listed on their company page, and then overall just learn more about the company and what they do. And this will give you an advantage if you do land an interview with them, because you've done all the work to learn more about the company, who works there, and the different kinds of opportunities that they offer. And also you can invite people at the company to connect with, and as I previously mentioned, before connecting with them, definitely include a personalized message. Perhaps even if they're not the right person to speak with about a current job opening, they can probably tell you who you should contact, or even put you in the direction of or put you directly in touch with the person you're looking to get in touch with. And secondly, another perk to connecting with those on LinkedIn is that you can also request informational interviews with an employee at the company to get more background on their positions, or if you have any further questions about certain projects that the company is working on. So that's just definitely one way, another way to grow your online network, by following companies and researching it further. And then lastly, definitely join groups. I would definitely suggest joining groups that are of professional interest to you. And this way it strengthens connections with, again, people who you share common skills with, experiences, industry interests, and goals especially. So from there, now that you've grown your network and you've completed your profile, you can actually start beginning to apply for internships by clicking on the job section. I would definitely suggest to remember to read the description of the job opening and then attach a cover letter and resume. If it asks for this, I would suggest doing it regardless. Typically, your LinkedIn profile may also act as your resume if you have completed it in full. Again, you want that one-click profile. Also, LinkedIn has an open to work feature, which would allow you to add a section to your profile, letting recruiters know that you're looking for internships. You can select the roles you have in mind and job locations, and you also have the option to have this visible to LinkedIn members or recruiters only. And if you are a student, I'd set this to be visible to all LinkedIn members because there are many people in your network who would be willing to help you to find an internship. And it's just another great way to connect, great way to network. So the next slide, again, this is just a quick example of showing like where to find, how to find internships. Typically, when you click on the job posting, that icon on the top right, it'll more likely show you jobs. So I would suggest clicking on it first and then searching for internships. And then you can also update the location to the United States, or if you want to search more particular, perhaps, Valentina mentioned she wants to find an internship in Los Angeles or New York, you can input New York or Los Angeles, and then again you can even specify further the kind of information, and then it'll show you the search results for what you're looking for. Another great option that LinkedIn offers is that you can save jobs. So perhaps you're not ready to apply quite yet and you want to do a little bit more research, you can press save, and then that way it'll store in your LinkedIn profile the jobs or internships that you're interested in, and then that you can go back to and apply with. And then also LinkedIn allows you to have the options to easy apply, which means that you can apply with your LinkedIn profile. I would still suggest, sending a cover letter regardless, if you're always applying. If you can watch our previous webinars regarding resumes, cover letters, and follow-up in regards to applying for internships. And then lastly, you can see here how to show that you're open to work. That's just something that you can add in the profile section, and then add that you can edit it to be on your profile to let recruiters know that you're open to work. So with that, before I wrap up, I do just want to briefly mention that we are still going to have future webinars, with a webinar next week, next Tuesday at the same time, discussing how to search for internships in the United States, and with more webinars every Tuesday. So we'll talk about networking, developing mentor and mentee relationships, interview tips, U.S. workplace culture, English in the U.S. workplace, and then lastly, we'll have advice for a successful internship with a participant panel from all career training participants. So if you're interested to hear firsthand accounts of how their internships went, that will be a great webinar to join. So I just wanted to wrap up. If anyone has any other questions regarding what we just discussed.
So it looks like I see two questions. This came in from the person who had the concerns about maximizing their presence versus privacy. Is there anything that they shouldn't post on their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, so I would definitely, it goes back to not posting things that are negative. I would definitely not post any complaints about your current or former bosses, colleagues, or companies. Again, proofreading is really important, so never try not to post anything with any spelling mistakes. Have another person look over your profile so that there are any, or proofread your profile so there aren't any spelling errors, grammar errors. Also, I wouldn't necessarily publicize your job search, if you're currently working, if you're a young professional, just because you never you never know. I would, again, use that feature that would only show that you're looking for internships to recruiters. And again, if you are a student, that this is something, an option that you could probably even show to other LinkedIn members. As I mentioned, they could probably even help you look for an internship. But again, this is something that, is up to your device. But, and then again, any other things to not include on your LinkedIn profile, I would say anything that's unrelated to internships or your professional life. So don't include any personal photos or anything that's just like your, any occasional like lighthearted post that isn't related to your interests or professional life. I would definitely keep, LinkedIn professional, and if it was something that's more private and more personal, again, keep that on your personal private social media accounts.
Great. The last question actually ties into your answer just now. Is it definite that a current employer will not see if someone makes themselves open to work for recruiters? Does LinkedIn guarantee that their current employer won't see that information?
So that is what LinkedIn says. So if you conclude seeking opportunities in your profile heading, your current employer would be able to see that. So if you actually write it in, like where you would put your personal brand seeking opportunities, then that's something that, can be seen. I wouldn't recommend it putting that in your headline because, again, it's prime real estate. And would be better put to use to include your brand statement. I would definitely suggest using the open to work feature that I previously mentioned in the last slide. Again, in theory, your host employer wouldn't be able to see this option displayed. However, potentially if they are recruiters themselves, this would be, kind of a predicament because they would have that access to the option. So I would definitely be careful. Definitely look into, if that's something that you're okay with publicizing, but in regards to the open to work feature, but I would definitely not include seeking opportunities in your personal brand statement section.
It looks like those are all the questions that we have. Thank you, Fatima. You covered a lot of real estate in a short period of time. But if anyone does have any questions, our contact information is on the screen. Please don't hesitate to be in touch, and we hope to see you next week at next week's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, morning, day.
Bye.
Bye.